Hello interwebs and welcome to episode number 4 of Ramified. In this episode we take a deep dive into the current A-10 standings of our black and gold fall sports. We crown a new Ram of the show and our lovely rant focuses on VCU women's basketball this time around. This episode is brought to you by Creative Dog Media, Drink Virginia Beer, and Team United Real Estate RVA. So let's boogie oogie oogie. VCU women's soccer is stuck in traffic in the Atlantic 10 rankings. Currently in 7th place at 3-3 with 9 points in A-10 play, the Rams are looking to switch lanes and get ahead of the game. Their overall play has gotten better over the last few contests with better communication and decision making on and off the ball. A couple of close decisions have been the tale of VCU's season as more of the same was seen in their latest results. After a 1-0 defeat at LaSalle, VCU traveled to Dayton and scored a 1-0 victory and all 3 points. Inside Nation's capital, VCU fell to the Colonials of George Washington in a 1-0 overtime defeat, then returned to sports backers to grab an emotional 1-0 double overtime victory over LaSalle. There are plenty of playmakers on this VCU women's squad, and the need for a big play is right now. Points matter, and looking at their next round of A-10 matchups, VCU have a chance to gather up a massive amount. They only have one match as the underdog versus number 2 St. Louis, and the Rams just need to take care of business on the pitch, collect all 3 points instead of 1 or none, and they could solidify their spot in the A-10 Women's Soccer Postseason Tournament in Rhode Island in a couple of weeks. The Rams are packed tightly with several teams in the Atlantic 10 table. There are 4 teams each with 7 points, currently tied for 4th. VCU are at 2-1-1 and are in a good place right now. They're only 1 point behind number 3 George Washington and 2 points behind number 2 St. Joe's. VCU is still in the driver's seat towards the top of the A-10 table. Their next challenge is against St. Joe's, but their last 3 A-10 matches are against teams near the bottom of the table. Head coach Dave Gifford continues to keep his team calm and collected during heated moments.
In general, at this level with those guys, those are the kind of things we're going to need to have happen to consistently get goals. If they each get one good look, maybe one day we'll get 3 goals. But I think most days it's going to take 3-4 good looks each, and if they each get 3 or 4 good looks, I sure like our chances.
Speaking of heat, offensively the Rams are still firing on all cylinders, but now the midfielders like Brandon Eaton and Rafael Andre Santos are sprinting up and down the pitch like wildfire because of all sorts of problems. It's been a mixed batch of results in their last matches. A draw at Gida, followed by a win versus LaSalle, then a defeat at Duquesne. If VCU can keep cool, calm, and collected on the pitch while finding the back of the net, the Rams could move towards the top 2 in the A-10. And if the results go the Rams' way, who knows? Maybe VCU could sneak into first place before A-10 tournament time. The current Atlantic 10 standings for field hockey aren't good for VCU and their postseason hopes. Currently at 1-5 in A-10 play, the Rams are mathematically out of the equation for a top 4 spot. With 4 games remaining on the schedule, VCU needs to end the 2016 season on a high note. With one more victory, VCU field hockey will tie last season's win total. Their last 4 games are all at Cary Street Field, giving VCU a home field advantage. Emily McNamara leads the Rams with 10 goals on the season, but she needs more offensive help in order for VCU to win. The Rams take plenty of shots, but they either go wide left, high, wide right, or sail over everything. Wrapping up 3 games in 5 days, the Rams claimed a 3-1 win at Longwood, then a 3-2 victory at home versus Towson before falling 6-1 to St. Francis on the road in A-10 play. Next up for the Black and Gold, they take on crosstown rival Richmond, then William & Mary, and at St. Louis in their A-10 finale, and then Senior Day will be out-of-conference opponent Missouri State here at Cary Street Field. There's still the opportunity to close out on a winning run if they don't let the last levels of opposition take them out. The ball's on the field and we're waiting to see if VCU's shot hits in between the pipes or sails wide. Things are getting a little too close for comfort in the Atlantic 10 involving VCU volleyball. VCU is currently smack dab in the middle of the A-10 table at 4-3, sitting in 5th place. That is just above the line as only the top 6 teams make the A-10 postseason tournament. As the Rams approach the finish line, VCU is looking forward, but needs to be aware of what's going on behind them as Davison and Fordham look to make a jump towards a playoff spot as well. It's gonna get fun now, folks. Speaking of fun, VCU is not really having any at the moment. During their 4-match homestand at Siegel, the Rams were able to make quick work of George Mason and George Washington with 3-0 sweeps. Then things turned sour quickly as A-10 top dog Dayton defeated the Rams 3-1, breaking the Rams' 3-match unbeaten streak. Then St. Louis claimed the 3-1 win to take possession of 4th place in the A-10. Look, you win some, you lose some, and during the Dayton match, VCU did give it their all. It was a different story versus St. Louis as there was noticeable frustration amongst the Rams, even with Julia Adler and Tori Baldwin becoming one hell of a tag team blockade and Rebecca Strange digging her way back into rhythm. VCU just seemed a tad off, flustered if you will. To combat that fluster of emotional baggage, VCU hits the road for 2 A-10 matches against George Washington and George Mason, opponents they've already defeated this season. They then return to the stew for a 3-match homestand and some extra home cooking goodness to push the pace before season's end. Hopefully the Rams get their groove back just as A-10 play heats up so they can get ready for some postseason play. It's Ram of the Show time! This episode's Alpha Ram plays for VCU Volleyball. It's sophomore Tori Baldwin, and she is a blocking menace for the opposition and a handshake creative guru magician. Baldwin comes to VCU from Liberty, North Carolina, after a promising high school career at Providence Grove High School, where she was a 3-time MVP and set single-season records in kills and blocks. This season at VCU has been tough on Baldwin, who is playing with a leg injury, but her heavy-duty knee brace has not stopped her at all. Baldwin currently has 11 solo blocks and assists on 60 for a grand total of 71 blocks on the season. And if you need extra motivation besides watching in awe at how well she moves across the court, her energy and passion can also keep you believing in this VCU volleyball team. On a side note, watching Baldwin's creativity with teammate handshakes is quite impressive and sets the bar high for all other black and gold squads. With her blocking and creative prowess on the court for VCU Volleyball, we deem Tori Baldwin as our Ram of the Show here on episode number 4 of Ramified. We're taking a super early look into the world of VCU women's basketball for the upcoming 2016-17 season. But first, let me take a selfie. Review some of last year's highlights. VCU women's hoops finished at 23-10 overall and 10-6 in Atlantic 10 play. The Rams made it to the A-10 tournament semis before VCU was eliminated by George Washington. This run was their deepest postseason run in a conference tournament since 2011. VCU didn't stop there and earned a WNIT appearance. They hosted UVA at the Siegel Center, but the Cavaliers bested the Rams. In her second season at the helm of VCU women's hoops, head coach Beth O'Boyle made noticeable improvements from her rookie year. Points per game, scoring, and rebounding increased slightly, along with a better free-throw percentage overall. Year 2 saw more assists with a total of 437 compared to 366 from 2014-15. The one thing that remained steady is steals at around 8 per contest. Turnovers went down, which is great, but the overall 3-point percentage went down as well from 32% to a questionable 28%. Which brings us to one of our questions for the upcoming year, the 3-point shot. This part of the Rams offense was almost non-existent for most of the season. There was some hot flashes from downtown by Isis Thorpe and Kiera Robinson on occasion, but the 3-pointer for most part was merely a ghost in VCU's arsenal. Speaking of the arsenal, VCU lost a lot of that offensive power during the offseason with the graduation of Daisy Alazy. Alazy was VCU's overall scoring leader and a strong voice on the team. Don't despair for a while. She may not wear a black and gold, but she is currently competing with the pros in Spain. Side note, congrats, Daisy. The Rams also lost the combo guard contributions of Sheradell Clay, paint menace Melanie Roster, and rebounding machine with ever-changing hair color Jessica Aganoran, who transferred from Stony Brook, O'Bell's previous team, for a 6th year in the collegiate game. Coach O'Boyle's newest class of 4 freshman recruits has us hopeful, but we must shine the spotlight on Memphis transfer Mariah Rosser. If you need a comparison to her scenario as to how she got to VCU, she is under the same scenario of VCU men's basketball Corey Bilberry with 1 more year of eligibility while working on academics. But back on the court, Rouser averaged 11.1 points per game, shooting 44% from the field in 95 games for the Memphis Tigers. She was also ranked the number 38 guard in the 2012 recruiting class by ESPNHoopGirls.com. Also returning and awaiting opening tip-off is Camille Calhoun, who was sidelined last season due to a vicious season-ending injury. If Calhoun shows any flashes of what she was able to do last year with the basketball with her physical play inside the paint, look out. I mean, she can even post me up with ease. Returning for their senior year is a mix of talented ladies: Gigi Goodhope, Ashley Mitchell, Ashley Pegram, Kiera Robinson, and Isis Thorpe are looking for another memorable season and hopefully a deep postseason run. There's also a pattern, so let's take a closer look at Coach O'Boyle's third year as head coach at her previous colleges. At Montclair State, O'Boyle finished at 18-10 overall and 10-3 in conference play in 2006 and 07. At Stony Brook, where some of the athletes hadn't played their senior year of high school, her tenure began with abysmal 4-26 overall record and a 1-15 in conference play in 2011-12 season. Ouch. But she added 10 wins in each of her consecutive years and ended the 2013-14 campaign incredibly well, finishing at 24-9 overall and 13-3 in conference play along with a WNIT berth. So if you love patterns, then historically speaking, you're going to love this season and the rewards that come with it for this VCU women's basketball program. Now, VCU does have some tough competition this season, including former VCU women's head coach Marlene Stallings returning to Siegel with Minnesota. The Rams take on American and Villanova in the 2016 San Juan shootout, as well as Old Dominion, Ole Miss, and Wake Forest away. And that's not even including all the good teams in the Atlantic 10, such as George Washington and Duquesne, just to name a few. I believe VCU will have some rough spurts during this season against tough competition. There will be times where the black and gold may doubt themselves against the best of their schedule has to offer, and that will be the determining factor as to whether this season will be a big one or a big bust. I think that the 3-ball will be a deciding factor in a few contests. This is an experienced roster with a few new faces, so the chemistry should not be that much of an issue. The issue will be consistency as always. Who's shooting good on this night, whose rebounding numbers are down, etc., etc., etc. I'm not expecting VCU to win the Atlantic 10 championship, but I would not be surprised if this squad of Rams get down to business early. One thing noted about this team is that Coach Beth O'Boyle and her staff are not just building a team, they are building a culture. And the progress has been great. Looking back at history, this is destined to be the breakout year for O'Boyle's year of threes. Let's see what year 3 of VCU women's basketball has in store. We will be watching.